Adversity has a way of making you question everything you thought you knew. It comes uninvited, unannounced, and unapologetic. It does not wait for you to be ready. It does not ask for permission. It does not care about your plans, your dreams, or your timeline. It simply arrives, sometimes like a storm that sweeps through and shakes the very foundation of your life, sometimes like a slow, grinding weight that presses down on you day after day, leaving you weary and exhausted. But here's what you must understand. Adversity is not your end. It is your awakening. So many people look at hardship as the conclusion of their story. They see failure, loss, and pain as the final chapter, the last page of their book, the moment when everything comes crashing down, never to be rebuilt again. But that is a lie from the enemy, because adversity is not your destruction, it is your transformation. It is the fire that refines you, the wind that pushes you forward, the shaking that forces you to stand tall when you feel like collapsing. See, we have been conditioned to fear adversity, to run from it, to avoid it at all costs. We pray for an easy road, a smooth journey, a path without obstacles. But what we don't realize is that the very thing we are trying to escape is the very thing God is using to shape us. Adversity is the training ground of champions. It is the preparation for the next level. It is the divine setup that takes you from where you are to where you are called to be. Look at the greatest figures in history, the most powerful men and women who changed the course of the world. Not a single one of them rose to greatness without first walking through adversity. You cannot build strength in the absence of struggle. You cannot develop endurance if you never have to push through resistance. You cannot grow in faith if you are never placed in a position where you must trust God beyond what your eyes can see. Think about a seed buried in the ground. If the seed could speak, it might cry out, "Why am I in this dark place? Why am I covered in dirt? Why do I feel pressure all around me?" But what the seed does not understand is that it is not being buried, it is being planted. And the dirt that surrounds it, the weight that presses down on it, is not meant to suffocate it, but to nourish it. That very pressure is what activates the growth inside the seed, forcing it to push through the soil, to stretch toward the light, to break through the ground and become something greater than it ever imagined. That is exactly what adversity does in your life. It presses on you, not to destroy you, but to awaken the strength that has been lying dormant within you. It forces you to grow. It calls out your potential. It demands that you rise, because without adversity, you would stay where you are. You would settle for less than you are capable of. You would remain comfortable, complacent, and unaware of the power God has placed inside you. The truth is, adversity is often the catalyst for transformation. How many times have you heard someone say, "It wasn't until I lost everything that I truly found myself"? How many people have walked through heartbreak, failure, and devastation only to emerge on the other side stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before? It is because adversity shakes us awake. It removes the distractions, strips away the excuses, and forces us to confront who we really are. See, when life is easy, we can get lazy. We can start taking things for granted. We can drift through life without much thought, without much urgency, without much fire in our spirit. But when adversity hits, suddenly we are forced to make a decision. We can either give up or we can fight. We can either let life crush us or we can let it refine us. We can either see adversity as the end or we can see it as the beginning of something new. Some of you have been through trials that you thought you wouldn't survive. Some of you have walked through storms that should have taken you out. Some of you have endured betrayal, loss, rejection, financial hardship, health crises, and moments where you felt like you had nothing left to give. But somehow you are still here. Somehow you are still standing. Somehow, despite everything that tried to break you, you have made it to this moment. And that alone is proof that adversity did not defeat you. It awakened something inside you. It is in the fire that gold is purified. It is under pressure that diamonds are formed. It is in the storm that trees grow deeper roots. And it is through adversity that you discover what you are truly made of. You would not know your own strength if you had never been tested. You would not know the depths of your faith if you had never had to trust God in the dark. You would not know the resilience inside you if you had never had to rise from the ashes of what tried to destroy you. And let me tell you something, God does not waste pain. He does not allow you to walk through fire without purpose. If He allowed adversity to come into your life, it is because He intends to use it. He intends to grow you through it, to teach you something in it, to refine you so that you can step into the next season of your life with power, with clarity, with wisdom, and with authority. Some of the greatest awakenings in your life will come in the moments you thought were your breaking points. Because when everything falls apart, that is when you discover what cannot be shaken. That is when you find out who you really are, what you really believe, and what really matters. That is when you stop living on the surface and start digging deep. That is when you stop running and start standing firm. This is why you cannot allow adversity to make you quit. This is why you cannot let hardship convince you that your story is over. This is why you must shift your perspective and see that the very thing you thought was your end is actually your awakening. It is the moment God is shaking you out of complacency, pushing you into purpose, and calling you to rise up into everything He created you to be. Strength is not something you are simply born with. It is not handed to you, wrapped up in a neat little package ready for use whenever you need it. No, true strength, the kind that endures, the kind that carries you through life's darkest valleys, the kind that refuses to bow under pressure, is not given, it is built. It is forged, it is shaped and refined, not in times of comfort, but in times of fire. Nobody becomes strong by avoiding difficulty. Nobody develops endurance by escaping struggle. Nobody builds resilience without being tested. Strength is not a product of ease. It is a product of adversity. It is a product of the fight, the pressure, the struggle, the nights you cried but kept going, the days you wanted to quit but chose to endure. Fire is a powerful thing. It can destroy, but it can also refine. It can consume, but it can also purify. It is in the fire that raw metal is transformed into something unbreakable. It is in the fire that impurities are burned away, that weakness is stripped off, that true strength is revealed. And the same is true in your life. You don't know how strong you really are until you've walked through the fire. You don't know the power that's inside you until you've been tested, stretched, and pushed beyond what you thought you could endure. Too many people want strength without struggle. They want power without pressure. They want victory without battle. But that's not how it works. You don't get stronger by sitting in comfort. You don't build endurance by avoiding hardship. The weightlifter doesn't gain muscle by lifting nothing. He gains strength by pushing against resistance. And in the same way, your strength is not developed in the absence of hardship. It is developed in the midst of it. It develops in the midst of it. Think about a sword in the hands of a blacksmith. A raw piece of metal is not strong in its natural state. It is full of weaknesses, full of impurities, full of inconsistencies. But when that metal is placed into the fire, when it is heated, beaten, shaped, and refined, it becomes something powerful. It becomes something sharp. It becomes something that can withstand any battle. And the process is not easy. The fire is hot, the hammer is heavy, the shaking is painful. But without it, the metal would remain weak. Without it, the sword would never reach its full potential. And the same is true for you. You were not created to be weak. You were not meant to be fragile, easily broken, or shaken by every storm that comes your way. No, you were designed for strength. You were made to endure. You were created to rise above, to overcome, to stand firm, no matter what life throws at you. But that strength is not something that comes overnight. It is something that is built in the fire. Some of the strongest people you will ever meet are the ones who have walked through the hottest fires. They are the ones who have been tested. The ones who have been through loss, through betrayal, through rejection, through failure, through seasons of loneliness, disappointment, and pain. They are the ones who have faced things that should have broken them, but instead, those things made them stronger. Because instead of running from the fire, they allowed it to refine them. Instead of letting their struggles destroy them, they let them shape them. Instead of crumbling under pressure, they stood their ground and became unshakable. Some of you are in the fire right now. You are walking through trials that feel unbearable. You are carrying burdens that feel too heavy. You are facing obstacles that seem impossible to overcome. And you may be asking, why is this happening to me? Why is life so hard? Why do I have to go through this? But what if I told you that this fire is not here to break you? It's here to make you. What if I told you that God is using this very situation to strengthen you, to purify you, to equip you for the next level of your destiny? Because let me tell you something, the fire does not last forever, but the strength it produces does. The pain may be temporary, but the power you gain from it will stay with you for the rest of your life. Every hardship, every setback, every trial is adding to your strength. Every time you choose to keep going when you want to give up, you are becoming stronger. Every time you refuse to let fear stop you, you are becoming braver. Every time you push forward despite the pressure, you are becoming more resilient. You don't grow when things are easy. You grow when things are hard. You grow when you are stretched beyond your limits. You grow when you are forced to stand in the fire and trust that God is using it for your good. The greatest breakthroughs don't come in the absence of struggle. They come through it. The greatest testimonies don't come from lives that were easy. They come from lives that have been through the fire and emerged stronger on the other side. Think about the caterpillar inside its cocoon. The transformation process is not easy. It is dark, it is tight, it is uncomfortable. The caterpillar is literally being broken down, reformed, reshaped into something new. And when the time comes for it to emerge, the struggle is necessary. If the caterpillar were helped out of its cocoon too soon, it would never develop the strength it needs to fly. It is in the struggle, in the pushing, in the pressure that its wings are strengthened. And the same is true for you. You may feel like you're in the fire, but the fire is not there to destroy you. It is there to strengthen you. You may feel like life is pressing down on you, but that pressure is producing something powerful inside you. You may feel like you're being stretched beyond your limits, but that stretching is expanding your capacity, because the fire does not just test you, it transforms you. It does not just reveal who you are, it shapes you into who you were meant to be. Your strength is not found in avoiding hardship. It is found in enduring it. It is found in standing firm when everything around you is shaking. It is found in refusing to quit, even when quitting seems like the easiest option. It is found in pushing forward, believing, trusting, and knowing that this fire is not the end of your story. It is the very thing that is making you stronger than you have ever been before. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It grips the mind, paralyzes the heart, and suffocates the soul. It whispers lies in the middle of the night, telling you that you are not enough, that you will fail, that everything you are working toward will crumble. It magnifies problems, makes mountains out of molehills, and convinces you that the storm will never pass. Fear will make you doubt yourself, doubt your future, and worst of all, doubt God's promises. But faith is the weapon that shatters fear. Faith is the power that drives back the darkness, that silences the lies, that makes the impossible possible. Faith does not bow to circumstances. Faith does not shrink back when the battle gets tough. Faith does not tremble in the presence of giants. No, faith stands tall. Faith moves forward. Faith declares, I will not be afraid because I know my God is with me. Every single day you will have to make a choice. Will you walk in faith or will you surrender to fear? Will you step forward or will you shrink back? Will you believe in what God has promised you or will you let fear rob you of your destiny. Fear will always be present, but it does not have to be in control. Fear may knock at your door, but faith is the key that locks it out. Fear is rooted in uncertainty. It thrives in the unknown. It feeds off doubt and insecurity. It makes you question everything. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if I am not good enough? What if I never recover? And fear doesn't stop at asking questions. It creates illusions. It makes the problem look bigger than it really is. Makes the storm seem stronger than it actually is. Makes the opposition look more powerful than it truly is. Fear distorts reality, but faith is the lens that allows you to see beyond what your eyes can perceive. Faith allows you to see the unseen, to trust in what God has spoken, even when your situation says otherwise. Think about the story of Peter walking on water. The storm was raging, the wind was howling, the waves were crashing. But as long as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, he was able to do the impossible. He was able to walk on water, to defy the laws of nature, to step into the miraculous. But the moment he looked at the storm, the moment he shifted his focus from faith to fear, he began to sink. And that is exactly what happens in our lives. As long as we keep our eyes on God, as long as we trust Him despite what we see, we can walk on water, we can move mountains, we can do what others say is impossible. But the second we allow fear to take over, we start sinking. Fear wants to keep you stuck. Fear wants to keep you bound. Fear wants to keep you from stepping into the fullness of your calling. How many dreams have been left unfulfilled because of fear? How many visions have been abandoned because someone was too afraid to take the risk? How many destinies have been delayed because fear convinced someone that they weren't capable? Fear has held too many people captive for too long. But when you choose faith over fear, you break free. Faith does not ignore the storm, but it refuses to let the storm determine the outcome. Faith does not pretend that obstacles don't exist, but it declares that those obstacles will not stop the plan of God. Faith sees the mountain, but knows that God can move it. Faith sees the problem, but believes that God is bigger. Faith hears the doctor's report, but chooses to trust in the healer. Faith acknowledges the battle, but stands in confidence, knowing that victory is already secured. Fear will tell you that you are alone, but faith says God is with me. Fear will tell you that you will fail, but faith says God has already made a way. Fear will tell you to run, but faith says stand firm. Fear will try to convince you that the situation is hopeless, but faith declares with God all things are possible. Every great breakthrough in history happened because someone chose faith over fear. Every great leader, every great innovator, every great movement was birthed because someone refused to let fear stop them. Think about David standing before Goliath. The entire army was trembling in fear, convinced that the giant was too big to defeat. But David had faith. David did not look at the size of the giant. He looked at the size of his God. He understood that fear might paralyze others, but it would not paralyze him. And because of his faith, he stepped into his destiny. How many times have you let fear hold you back? How many times have you stopped short of a blessing because fear told you it wasn't possible? How many times have you allowed fear to speak louder than faith? It is time to silence fear. It is time to shut down every lie that says you can't, you won't, or you're not enough. Because if God is for you, nothing can stand against you. Faith is not about having all the answers. Faith is not about seeing the full picture. Faith is about trusting God even when you don't understand. Faith is about walking forward even when you don't see the whole path. Faith is about knowing that even if the fire gets hotter, even if the battle gets tougher, even if the storm gets stronger, God is still in control. Fear wants to make you retreat, but faith makes you advance. Fear wants to keep you small, but faith pushes you into greatness. Fear wants to keep you quiet, but faith makes you roar with confidence. Fear wants to keep you bound, but faith makes you break every chain. Fear wants to keep you in the boat, But faith says, step out on the water. Fear says, what if I fail? But faith says, what if I fly? You were not created to live in fear. You were not designed to shrink back, to hide, to settle for less than God's best for your life. You were made to walk in boldness. You were made to move in power. You were made to trust God with everything in you, knowing that He is faithful. Fear may try to whisper, but faith will always roar louder, because faith is not just an option, it is a necessity. Faith is the key that unlocks the door to your destiny. Faith is the key that unlocks the door to your faith is the fire that fuels your purpose. Faith is the power that takes you beyond your limits. And no matter what comes your way, no matter how big the storm, no matter how impossible things may seem, you must always remember faith over fear. All life will knock you down. That is not a question. That is not a possibility. That is a guarantee. At some point you will face challenges that shake you to your core. You will encounter obstacles that seem immovable. You will be met with disappointment, heartbreak, failure, and moments so painful that you will wonder if you even have the strength to keep going. But here's what separates those who rise from those who remain defeated. The ones who rise don't stay down. They get up, push forward, and keep believing, even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when everything inside them is screaming, quit. There will be moments in life where you feel like you have nothing left to give. Times when you have prayed, you have fought, you have poured your heart and soul into something, and yet it still falls apart. You will face situations that test everything you believe in. You will have seasons where it seems like nothing is working, where every step forward is met with resistance, where every door you knock on remains shut. But hear me when I tell you, this is not where your story ends. You may be down, but you are not out. You may feel broken, but you are not finished. Because as long as you have breath in your body, you still have a fight in your spirit. And the moment you decide to get back up is the moment your comeback begins. Nobody who ever accomplished anything great in life did so without first getting knocked down. Every champion has faced defeat. Every warrior has been wounded. Every dreamer has had moments where doubt tried to drown out their faith. But the difference between those who succeed and those who give up is that successful people refuse to stay down. They refuse to let one failure define them. They refuse to let one closed door stop them. They refuse to let one season of struggle convince them that the battle is over, because they understand that every setback is a setup for something greater. You have to make up your mind that no matter what happens, you will not quit. You will not surrender to fear. You will not allow disappointment to rob you of your purpose. You will not let obstacles convince you that you are not capable. You will get up, push forward, and keep believing, because your destiny depends on it. It's easy to have faith when everything is going right. It's easy to keep moving when the road is smooth and the doors are opening. But what do you do when life doesn't go the way you expected? What do you do when the job you prayed for doesn't come through? What do you do when the relationship you thought would last forever crumbles? What do you do when the business fails, when the doctor's report is not what you wanted to hear, when the opportunity you were waiting on never arrived? That is when real faith is tested. That is when you have to decide, will I let this break me, or will I let this build me? Will I give up, or will I push forward? Will I stop believing, or will I hold on even tighter? Too many people give up too soon. They let one failure make them believe they are a failure. They let one rejection convince them they are not worthy. They let one painful experience cause them to build walls around their heart, never stepping out again, never trying again, never believing again. But if you want to reach the fullness of your destiny, you cannot allow one season of struggle to define your entire story. You cannot let temporary pain make you forfeit your permanent purpose. The road to success, the road to purpose, the road to everything you have ever dreamed of is paved with obstacles. It is paved with trials. It is paved with moments where you will want to give up. But the reason so many people never reach their destiny is that they stop too soon. They give up in the middle of the storm, not realizing that breakthrough was just ahead. They let the weight of failure crush them, not realizing that if they had just gotten back up, they would have stepped into a season greater than anything they had ever imagined. There is a fighter inside you. There is a warrior in your spirit. There is a fire in your soul that refuses to be put out. You may have been knocked down, but that is not where you are meant to stay. You may have been through battles, but those battles do not define you. They refine you. Every challenge, every setback, every delay is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to prepare you. You are being strengthened. You are being equipped. You are being positioned for something greater, but you will never see it if you don't get back up. Think about every great person who ever made history. Every single one of them had a moment where they could have quit. Every single one of them had a reason to give up, but they didn't. They chose to believe when there was no reason to believe. They chose to keep going when everything in them was tired. They chose to push forward when everything around them was telling them to stop. And because they made that choice, they walked into greatness. You must do the same. You must refuse to let one hard season dictate the rest of your life. You must decide that no matter how many times you get knocked down, you will get back up stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. You must push forward even when it hurts, even when you are tired, even when the odds are stacked against you, because you are not meant to live in defeat. You are not meant to settle for less than God's best for your life. You are not meant to let fear, doubt, or disappointment keep you from the destiny that was designed for you before you were even born. So get up, shake off the dust, wipe your tears, silence the doubt, stand firm in the truth that what is ahead of you is greater than what is behind you. Push forward. Keep moving, keep trusting, keep believing, because your best days are still ahead.